Israel's President Isaac Herzog visited Washington this week, and Joe Biden, he literally fell asleep in the meeting. That really actually just happened. We're going to go through all of that, plus a controversy at the Western Wall that might just not exactly mean what you might think or what you've seen portrayed on social media. I'm Ben, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome back to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in the world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, that video was of a doctor here in Israel entertaining one of his junior patients, and I thought that was an incredible way to start out the day this morning. The quote underneath it was also very inspirational. Said, "Live your life as if it's being recorded by Hashem to inspire the rest of the world. Not only is this the best way to live life, but once in a while, it just might be true." I want to start by going through a little bit of an article from the Jerusalem Post about Isaac Herzog, President Isaac Herzog's visit to Washington. Quote, "Israel's enemies are mistaken to think that the U.S. Israel tensions means the alliance between the countries is weakened," President Isaac Herzog said on Thursday, reflecting on his visit to the White House this week. "I spoke with the U.S. President Joe Biden in the Oval Office, and I said, there are some enemies who don't understand two things," the president said. "Even if we have a dispute, our relations remain above all disputes." The same is true for the heated internal debate about the judicial reform in Israel, Herzog said, expressing confidence at the strength and cohesiveness of Israeli society. Still, he said, this conflict has ramifications because our enemies misinterpret the dispute and think we are weaker. Really important point right there. Biden told Herzog, as well as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on a phone call at the beginning of the week, that his commitment to Israel's security is unshakable. So President Herzog's visit to the States seems like it's been a fairly good success so far. He did address Congress and meet with Joe Biden. But don't forget that this is Herzog being invited to Washington, not Bibi Netanyahu. Herzog is the president of Israel, which is a symbolic position here in Israel, not like the president of the United States, mainly a position to bring unity and the people as an apolitical figure. Even though Herzog is former member of the Labor Party, left-wing party, he has put his differences aside for this position as president of Israel, mainly to bring unity. That's what the position is for. So by Joe Biden inviting him to the White House, it plays this interesting balance where he can kind of still make a show of supporting the state of Israel while very much giving Bibi Netanyahu a slap on the wrist, which is crazy stuff. I'm not sure that this has happened before. It might have. It might have happened before. I couldn't find it. If you know about that, leave that in the comments down below. I'd love to explore that. Like we read from the article, this is crazy, guys. Herzog actually said in the article, he said, "I spoke with U.S. President Joe Biden in the Oval Office," what we just read. That was being extremely kind and diplomatic, and of course, what he should say. But if you watch the video of the exchange, if you watch Herzog and Biden sitting in the Oval Office, having their quote-unquote conversation, Herzog was speaking to Biden, not having a conversation with Biden. I mean, that's really the only way to look at it. Take a look at this video right here and tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, literally, tell me if I'm wrong on this.
Israelis in a decade that give for him.
So Biden's giving a couple of opening remarks that he is reading from a piece of paper in his lap, which is always a great sign of strength for the president of the United States and the leader of the free world for all effective purposes.
We brought Israelis and Palestinians together at a political level,
then he kind of gets to a point here in the middle where he kind of starts mumbling, and you really can't tell what he's actually saying. I think he's supposed to be reading on the paper. But then he sort of just kind of stops, and he's kind of mumbling, and his head's forward, and his eyes are closed. And he pretty much just fell asleep. I'm not sure there's any other way to look at that. Of course, Herzog is being very diplomatic and pretending like that's not happening, but I'm sure everything inside of him is screaming, somebody help this old guy. I mean, on a human level, you kind of have to feel bad for Joe Biden at this point that he's put in this position. Obviously, on a political level, he's dug his own grave here. Not to sound insensitive, but he literally put himself in this position after decades and decades of terrible narcissism and self-centeredness and terrible policies, and his decision to run for president in the first place. He literally put himself in this position, but just as one human to another, it is very difficult to see this. It really is. And as an American here at the Israel Guys, we're not Jewish. We are American Christian Zionists. As an American, this is extremely difficult to see and also very embarrassing, not only for the state of Israel, but for the rest of the world to see as well. So, and it's also really crazy that we've gotten used to that for some reason the president of the United States meeting with a figurehead from another country and literally falling asleep in the Oval Office doesn't seem crazy to us anymore because it's not the first time it's happened. CNN actually did a pretty good article that summed up the relationship between the United States and Israel right now. I know, shocker, CNN did a good article, but, broken clock is right even twice a day. It does happen every once in a while. Said, quote, but the Oval Office talks also serve to underscore the lingering tensions between, they also said talks, being nice, between President Joe Biden and the Israeli leader who hasn't yet visited Washington since returning to office last year, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Tensions between Biden and Netanyahu's right-wing government have persisted for months, in part over contentious plans for a judicial overhaul and what Biden regards as an extremist positions taken by members of Netanyahu's government. Israel's moves to expand settlements in the occupied West Bank have also drawn U.S. criticisms. So also, interpretation, Israel's fight for survival as a nation that have drawn criticism from the Joe Biden administration. And a step that could ease some of the strain, the White House said on Monday that Biden and Netanyahu would meet in the coming months in the United States, but it remains unclear if those talks would mirror the type of Oval Office visit Netanyahu has long sought and that Herzog participated in Tuesday. Welcoming Herzog, whose role is largely ceremonial, provided Biden opportunity to demonstrate his pro-Israel credentials, even as he continues to harbor deep concerns about Netanyahu's leadership. So, kind of like we just broke down, CNN is basically kind of saying the quiet part out loud. That Biden is not inviting Netanyahu to the White House as a slap on the wrist, as a very clear message about their lack of support for the position that the Israeli government is taking with perfectly normal judicial reforms, perfectly common sense judicial reforms. Boggles my mind why the U.S. administration would find a problem with these judicial reforms, because a lot of them was actually moving Israel in the direction of the United States' system and the direction of a lot of other Western countries already take, moving away from kind of socialistic type policies that are ingrained into, Israel's roots that they're very much trying to move away from. And I would think that the United States, being a democratic republic, would welcome these moves, would welcome a greater deepening of democracy inside of Israel, welcome a transfer of power from, because there's an inordinate amount of power invested in the Supreme Court right now that does not belong there, that a lot of Israelis firmly believe does not belong there. And these judicial reforms would transfer some of that power and make it more balanced in between the Supreme Court and in between the legislative branch inside of the Knesset with the Prime Minister's office. So all that to say, I find it insane that the United States is taking these stances still. I would say Joe Biden taking these stances, but Joe Biden is not taking any stances at the current moment. Joe Biden is sleeping through some of these most important meetings. So I guess we have to blame maybe Joe Biden's previous decisions that brought him to this point, or the staff that's around him. Who knows? We're going to take a look at a controversy that just happened at the Western Wall that I think is going to be really interesting to discuss here in just a second. But first, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Over 60% of you are not subscribed. They're watching right now. That means you right now, take a look at the subscribe button below and see if you are actually subscribed. If not, click on it. It's better for you. It's better for us. Helps us grow. Helps us get the word out about these videos to more people. But first, we want to take a second to talk to you about the Israel Bible. your go-to Bible for the most unique, accurate insights into the land of Israel. We know how important it is to study the Hebrew Bible through an authentic Hebrew lens. That's why the Israel Bible offers an exclusive commentary alongside the original Hebrew text and a crystal clear English translation. Studying the Bible has never been easier with charts, lists, maps, and introductions on every book. The Israel Bible provides the perfect platform for you to dive deep into the Word of God. And guess what? You don't need to be a Hebrew expert to read the authentic Hebrew text. The Israel Bible includes English translations and transliterations, making it accessible to everyone. By exploring the Bible in its original language, you'll unlock a deeper understanding of the text, bringing you closer to the heart of God's message. Don't miss this incredible opportunity to own a Bible that highlights the land, people, and God of Israel on every page. Strengthen your faith and deepen your understanding of the Bible with the Israel Bible. I'm going to play a quick video for you that was reposted on Hanania Naftali's page. A lot of you are probably familiar with his work. He does a lot of really awesome Israel advocacy here in Israel. He is an Israeli Christian, I do believe. This is a quote from his repost of this video. I just want to read it before I actually play the video. He says, the German Christian abbot Dormition Abbey in Jerusalem was asked to hide his cross by a Western Wall official. It breaks my heart to see that Christians are suffering persecution in Israel. As an Israeli, I stand with my Christian brothers and sisters. Christians are some of the best friends Israel has. We need to build more bridges, not destroy the existing ones. Pray for Israel. Okay, so keep that in mind. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to play this video, and then I have some really interesting takes on this that you do not want to miss. So right here.
Really big and it's inappropriate for this place, okay? That's a Jewish place. You need to respect this. Can you please put it inside?
Okay, this is very harsh. It's very harsh. No, you're not respecting my
Can you
religion.
please stop taking pictures?
You're not respecting.
Thank you.
You're hindering me from my human right to. No, this is not provocation. I'm an abbot. This
It's
is
not-
my dress. This is how I'm dressed.
I told you to do something with your dress code. I told you to do something with your cross.
The cross is part of my dress code. I'm a Roman Catholic abbot. This is how I dress. So you want from me that I'm not dressed as my faith tells me how I should dress. Yeah, this is really.
So before I get to my takes, I do want to emphasize that I do really respect Hanania's work a lot, and he's right about a lot of things. So this is not a rap on him, but I do think he is wrong in this current instance, and I'm going to lay out exactly why I don't think it's a problem for officials at the Western Wall to ask priests to ask a Roman Catholic priest to hide his cross or to tuck in his cross instead of displaying it on the outside of his robe. Also want to preface that, like I said earlier, we here at the Israel Guys are evangelical Christian Zionists that work in Israel and that support the state of Israel 100% absolutely, but we're not Jewish, so this is coming from a Christian perspective, even though I am defending the actions of the Jews here in their state. I want to make sure that perspective is clear, that this is coming as a Christian criticizing other Christians, not criticizing, but kind of critiquing the action here, that this is internal. I think the Jewish perspective on this, or the Israeli perspective on this, is very, very misunderstood, because as Christians, the cross is very important to Christianity. The symbol of the cross is very important to Christianity, especially to Catholics and more Orthodox segments of Christianity. And or, the actual big symbols of the cross. It's very important, obviously, to all denominations of Christianity. And so to see Israelis, to see Jews, asking a Christian to tuck in the cross can very much feel like persecution from our Western Christian type perspective. But there are some really good reasons for this, and I want to go through this. Number one, the Western Wall is not just a tourism site for Jews. The Western Wall is not just, the Lincoln Memorial or something like that. The Western Wall is, in effect, the gateway to the Temple Mount for the Jewish people. It's the place where the Jews can come and have open access, where they actually have full sovereignty, full control over a close place to the Holy of Holies, to the place where the Ark of the Covenant was, to the place where God said he would put his name in his heart forever. It's not the Temple Mount, but it is approaching the Temple Mount. It's kind of the gateway to the Temple Mount for the Jewish people. Also, most Orthodox Jews see the cross. Traditional Judaism sees the cross, the Christian cross, as an idol. Obviously, I'm a Christian, so I don't believe that it is. But for Jews, many of them do, because it appears as if a lot of Christians actually worship it, as prayers are directed towards it and that type of thing. Obviously, not all Jews believe this, but there are, the kind of mainstream approach here in Israel is the cross is kind of seen as an idol. And in the Bible, there are very, very clear directives inside of the Temple Mount, around the Temple Mount, about idolatry. Like, God takes this very seriously. Idols are not allowed, obviously, in his nation, but also in his house. It's really, really big deal. It's a really big deal for Jews. And so, obviously, like, not all crosses are banned at the Western Wall, but for someone to walk in and have, a huge cross, kind of hanging out, it's not good for, it's not seen as good inside the Orthodox community. And this is a place of worship. Obviously, Scripture says that the house of God is a place of worship for all nations, and Jews welcome all faiths to come worship God at the Western Wall. But it is done through the lens of Jewish sovereignty there. And with Jewish sovereignty there needs to be some level of respect for the current Jewish faith and as they see the Scriptures today. And so the cross by many Orthodox Jews is considered an idol. And also, there is a very long history of persecution of Jews by Christians. We've talked about this here at the Israel Guys, a good bit. But the history is real. For us, especially living in the United States, we're very much disconnected from the Christian persecution of Jews. But the Crusades were an awful period of Jewish history. The Inquisition was an awful period of Christian history. We slaughtered, as Christians, I say we, but, our Christian ancestors slaughtered hundreds of thousands, millions of Jews, in the Crusades and the Inquisition and the Holocaust, and the list goes on. And the figurehead of the persecution, the figurehead of those slaughters, those murders, was the cross. The cross was on the shields of the Crusaders. The cross was on top of some gas chambers in the concentration camp. And the list goes on and on and on. For many Jews who fought and died to have their own homeland, to escape this persecution, to escape their reliance on other nations, to escape, this genocides that have happened over and over and over again, they came back and they now have their own homeland. And of course, they welcome Christians and non-Jews to come and worship God with them. But to bring in, huge crosses is difficult. It really is difficult for Jews. Obviously, it's not, banned symbol in Israel or whatever. There's huge crosses all over churches all over the place, in Jerusalem and other big cities. But it's tough. It really is tough for Jews. It's a really, really difficult symbol to see because of the history, because they actually have blood relatives in the immediate, in immediate, very close history that were slaughtered in the name of the cross. Kiss the cross or die was a thing for a lot of centuries in Jewish history. And that's something that we as Christians really have to wrap our minds around, and we really have to respect, in my opinion, especially when we come to Israel, and especially when we come to Jewish sites, like Jewish holy sites, like the entrance to the Temple Mount and the Western Wall. Also, I want to point out that the position that the Western Wall Heritage Foundation took here in asking this priest to tuck in his cross, number one, is a position that they've had for a long time. And this priest, from Hananiah's post, was from an abbot in Jerusalem, meaning he'd probably come to the Western Wall before, meaning he knew the rules full well. And many priests that we see just comply and they come in, and that's fine. Meaning, more than likely, this priest actually came prepared for the confrontation, prepared to film this, prepared to make this a viral video. Obviously, might not be the case, and I don't want to make too harsh of an accusation, but it is something to kind of keep in mind that he more than likely knew what was expected of him and made the protest anyway, and had it filmed. So there is that. Also, one more thing on this that is a little mind-blowing, that Catholics, I talk to you especially, because this guy said he's a Catholic priest, a Roman Catholic priest in Jerusalem. Hey, he had a major problem with the Western Wall Heritage Foundation asking him to tuck in his cross. But the Vatican, if you go on the website of the Vatican tours, there actually is a dress code for the Vatican as well. The same way that for the entrance to the Temple Mount, not the actual entrance. The Western Wall is not the actual entrance, but kind of the current spiritual entrance to the Temple Mount for a lot of Jews and Christians. For that site, they actually have a dress code and, and asking not to, and a request to not have huge religious symbols and stuff. But also the Vatican is the exact same thing. The exact same thing. I'm reading from Vatican Tickets and Tours here. They have a dress code. They say to be dressed appropriately to enter into the Vatican, or whole list of other churches around the Vatican. Visitors not permitted to wear sleeveless, low-cut garments, shorts, mini skirts, or hats, or tattoos, personal signs, jewelry that may offend Catholic morality, the Catholic religion, or common decency. Those people will be denied entry. Not just asked to remove them; they'll be actually denied entry. I would very much venture to guess, I would bet a lot, that this Roman Catholic priest from the abbot in Jerusalem knows this about the Vatican, is perfectly fine with demanding that Jews take off maybe a Star of David. I don't know if that's the case, but that Jews and other members of other faiths not allowed to be able to wear, quote unquote, religious symbols that were offensive to the Catholic religion. But he's totally fine with making a huge stink out of Jews requesting the same favor of him at their place of worship on the Temple Mount. And that double standard is really ironic, really absolutely ironic. Guys, do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you didn't when I talked about it here in the middle. Don't forget to tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We'll be back every day, Monday through Friday, with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.